Sticker shock has become a much more common experience for the American car buyer, with dealership prices soaring. There's a recent article in the Washington Post which details how some dealerships are charging far more than the manufacturer's suggested retail price, and car makers are not happy about it. So let's bring in the author of that piece, Jacob Bogage, to discuss the ongoing surge in car costs. So, Jacob, this is a fascinating. We literally were talking about this earlier this week. The number of Americans that are paying more than the suggested retail price for a car jumped significantly just in the last month. How big was the jump, and is it just explainable by supply chain and inflation, or is there something else going on?
It's a tremendous jump. According to the consumer and market research group Edmunds, which focuses on the auto industry, like 82% of new car purchases in the last month were above sticker price. And this MSRP is what we're used to seeing on the sticker of a window. It is the value of the car, according to the manufacturer, when it rolls off the assembly line. And there are reasons for why this is happening. And the main one is supply chain, but also kind of the changing dynamics in our economy during the pandemic. When the pandemic first hit, there were all these cars sitting on the lot, and we weren't really going anywhere. And so folks didn't really end up buying them. And now as the world has started to open up again, we're experiencing some of these supply chain issues. There's not a lot of inventory left for some dealers. And so because they're not making the same volume of sales, they feel they need to increase the price on the sales they do have. And that has consumers really kind of caught, especially folks who need a car, as we all start going back to doing things in person again.
Yeah, I thought your article sort of explained it really well, because I think there's this idea that dealerships are sort of gouging you because there's this pent-up demand, but they're saying, no, we don't have the cars to sell, and we still got to keep the lights on, we still got to pay our bills, so we have to, charge a little bit more because we're selling fewer cars. But the manufacturer's suggested retail price issue, I think, is fascinating. We all know you go to buy a car, you haggle, it goes back and forth.
There's a wide leeway that the dealer can set the price.
Well, that's what I want to know. I actually do want to know about sort of this wide leeway. Why are dealerships able to price these cars so much higher than the manufacturer's suggested price? And how are the manufacturers responding to this? Why do the manufacturers care?
Well, that's a great question. The manufacturers care because the price of their car kind of sets a reputation for the rest of their cars. And so we focus in the story a lot on Ford and General Motors. And again, if you're going to a dealership and buying a Ford above sticker price, the manufacturers are concerned that you're going to think all Fords or all GMs or all of a certain brand are overpriced. They're priced more than they're worth. And so there's a real concern, a real kind of tussle between manufacturers and dealers about how do we make sure manufacturers truly can make some money off the sale of these cars, because a new car sale really is, frankly, a low margin transaction, along with preserving the reputation of these vehicles. And so manufacturers don't have a whole lot of levers they can pull, but the most draconian, and that's what we're starting to see, is they can just say, hey, if you're not going to price our car the way we think it ought to be priced, we're just going to stop sending you cars, or we're going to stop sending you the cars that you want. And in Ford's case, they're talking about the Ford F-150 Lightning, which is their electric pickup truck. It is a huge draw for dealers. Dealers want a lot of these on their lot. And Ford is saying, look, if you're not going to abide by our MSRP, our sticker price, then the consequences are you're not going to get the cars that you want to sell.
I think I know what you're going to say, Vlad. I was going to say, isn't that going to make the problem worse? Is that what you're going to say?
Doesn't it make the problem worse? And also, there's something like I've never bought a new car, right?
Me neither.
A few times I've had cars in my life when I didn't live in this country. They were used cars. So my question is, isn't generally the manufacturer's suggested price higher than what typically dealers will offer a buyer? And my guess is, if people are still buying cars at these inflated prices, then what is it? Why would the dealer be like, I should lower the prices because I got buyers coming in?
Well, he's saying, yeah, right, exactly. Yeah.
Vlad, you're right on. That's a great point. The MSRP is a suggested price, but the way consumers think about it, because of the way we've all bought cars over time, both new and used, right? There's the price that's on the sticker of the car, and a lot of folks kind of think, well, that's the value of the car. I'm going to try to get a deal. I'm going to try to go under that. And dealers are sometimes okay with that, frankly, a lot of the time, because they know the revenue from selling a car isn't necessarily the car sale itself. It's all of the service and maintenance down the line. It's creating a good relationship with you so that when you need another car, you come back to them instead of going somewhere down the road. So a lot goes into how these cars are priced. But I think your point is really well taken as well. And I think we try to get into this a little bit in the story about why a dealer would lower a price in this situation. And you're right, they wouldn't. The fact that they can price cars this high is a dealer saying, I know that there are consumers who will pay this price.
But Jacob,
yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I just wanted to get to this other component that you include in your story, sort of the disruptors, right? These startup electric vehicle companies that sell directly to consumers.
Like Tesla?
People might not know that Tesla doesn't have dealerships. They may look like dealerships, but they're not. They're showrooms, right? And so you don't haggle over the price.
So you don't go in there to buy one. You buy it directly from Tesla.
Right, exactly. They're just, so if you ever gone to a Tesla showroom, you don't get any pressure from a salesperson because they're not salespeople. That's not their thing. But it's very interesting because it kind of cuts out the middleman, and that is something that these traditional automakers are starting to look at, right?
Yeah, absolutely. These EV manufacturers like Tesla, like a Rivian or Lucid, they sell directly to consumers. They cut out the middleman, and part of that is because they have fewer models of car to sell. So if you drive one Tesla, you have a pretty decent sense of what it's like to drive a lot of Teslas, as opposed to if you drive one Toyota, there are like 47 other Toyotas, the Toyota models that you have to drive to get a feel for it. So they're a little bit more able to do that. But that's a really attractive proposition to legacy car makers who have to work with these dealers. And they have a middleman in between. And that middleman not only skims some profit from the sale, but they're also generally in charge of managing the reputation of these dealers because they have the most interaction with the buyer. And so it's really attractive for these legacy manufacturers to see what they can borrow from these EV startups, to see if there is some room to get into that kind of line of sales themselves.
It's fascinating. I thought the article was great. Jacob Bogage, thank you very much, especially being someone who's looking for a car. I appreciate all that insight. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.